So very good morning to all of you and welcome to the class on Chumparai's The Unaccustomed Art. Now, uh, Unaccustomed Art is a collection of 8 short stories by Chumpalari and it was published in 2008. Before going to the detailed discussion on the short story, it will be customary and it will be also helpful to discuss in brief Chumpalairi and what exactly she writes or what are the things that she focus on and etc etc etc. So at the very beginning we can say that Chumpalairi is considered, taking the very word interpreter from his short story Interpreter of Maladies. That was the very first collection of short stories that we and that got the Pulitzer Prize. So Chumpalairi can be considered an interpreter of post-colonial condition of Indian diaspora. So she mostly tells the stories of the privileged Bengali setting in the West and mostly underlines the anxieties of this group caught in the dual allegiance of transcontinental citizenship. So actually, Chumpalairi tries to focus on the anxieties of this particular group who are caught between between their transcontinental citizenship, their the duality in their citizenship. They are originally from a country and they are just settled presently in a different country, and the crisis that they feel uh, because of their in-betweenness between their native country and the settled country. Okay, she at the same time also deals with the portrayal of dislocation and generational crisis. So this is very important in the context of Chumpalairi's short stories, that is not only dislocation she is trying to focus on, but at the same time she is trying to focus on the varied perceptions of this dislocation, that is the generational crisis which comes into the discussion. That the first generation diaspora, suppose a person and his or her family actually located to another country and left his or her native land. Now they are the first generation diaspora. Now when they have their children, their these immigrants children, they are second generation diaspora because they don't have the very first hand experience of their native land or of their roots. Now, how do they look into their tradition, their roots, their history? So there lies the crisis. So Jumpalairi also focuses on this generational crisis that we find between the first generation and the second generation diaspora. Now, if we look at the short story, we will find that like the other short stories that we have in this collection, the name of these short stories are like this. They are divided into 2 parts. Part 1, where we have this unaccustomed art, then hell, heaven, a choice of accommodations, only goodness, nobody's business. These 5 short stories in part 1, and in part 2, that is named Hema and Kaushik, once in a lifetime, years in and going ashore. Like all are these short stories, we will find that it is these stories, and mainly the short story that we are going to read, the unaccustomed art, all these are the wistful record of people who, even while retaining the traces of their ancestral home, have lost their roots, and they are trying to find out their roots, or they are in search of their roots. Now, uh, if we look at an immigrant's life, we will find that an immigrant's life is marked by the traits of memory. So memory is a very important thing that we have to look into while discussing the immigrant's experience, while discussing diaspora or the generational crisis that we find in first generation and the second generation diaspora. So we will see that memory is a very important thing, and an immigrant's life is marked by the traits of memory. Now, because the experience of living in a foreign land because an immigrant has the experience of living in a foreign land, his or her history is divided. It is divided, and there is a division between the desire, the need to keep the links to tradition, homeland, and memories on the one hand, and on the other hand, the desire to have the freedom which the contact with the different culture and the contact with a new land give them or offer them. So there is always a sort of crisis in them. They try to memorize, they try to remember their roots, be it the first generation diaspora or the second generation of the immigrants' children. The immigrants' children, they now the question you may ask that how do the immigrants' children remember their roots? So if they don't have the first-hand experience, then the obvious answer will be like that. That's this the memories they are transferred from their previous generation to them. They get the idea of their root, they get the idea of their native land from their ancestors. Okay. Now, let's just come back to the point that an immigrant's life is divided between the desire to go back to their roots, to remember, to memorize their roots, their tradition, and at the same time to grapple to have the taste of the new. Now, therefore, an immigrant's life is always in between recalling and forgetting. Now, they always have the crisis of what to remember, what to remember, what is the desire, and what to cherish and what not, and also what to forget. Now, Lahiri from the very beginning, Jhumpa Lahiri from the very beginning, is trying to deal with the experience of a life caught between two separate cultures. And in almost all the stories, starting from Namesake and this collection of short stories, we will find that he is trying to deal with the experience of a life caught between two separate cultures and how do they cope with both these cultures, or how did they cope with this crisis. Now, the short story Unaccustomed Earth that we will read right now demonstrate how the internal relation between recalling and forgetting operate. Now we will find that there are a few characters in the story, that is Ruma, the main character, Ruma's wife Adam, who is a Caucasian American who is on a business tour, and Ruma's son Akash, and Ruma's father, who is about to visit and who comes to to Ruma's family for a short trip to Seattle. And we have the absent character, Ruma's mother, who is not present now, who died a few days ago. And after Ruma's mother's death, actually Ruma's father has started these trips, and in between two trips, he plans to visit Ruma at Seattle, and Mrs. Bakchi, who with whom Ruma's father has developed a sort of relationship right now, and Ruma will come to know of that at the very end of the story. So we see that all these stories now this all the characters that we find in the short story Unaccustomed Earth, they demonstrate how the interrelation is operating between recalling and forgetting, what to remember, how to remember, and how to deal with memory, and how forgetting as a very spontaneous and forgetting as a very impulsive activity is controlled by our group interest, by our commitment to group interests. Now, writers like Lahiri deal with the clash between cultures, as well as they also deal with the process of assimilation. Now, in Jhumpa Lahiri, we find that she is not only dealing with the cultural clashes, but also dealing with the process of assimilation. Now, in different characters, we will find that there are examples of cultural clash and how they are facing the different foreign culture. And at the same time, we will find that characters who are assimilating. And this is not only limited to first generation diaspora characters, but also in second generation also, and all this. So all these we will find when we will read the text in details. Now, the works of immigrants' children, when an immigrant's children or a second generation diaspora is writing, they focus on the complexity of relationships between the generations who leave the diaspora and their children born in a foreign land. So when we find the writings of second generation diaspora, we see that they, just like Jhumpa Lahiri, they deal with the crisis between the first generation diaspora and the second generation diaspora. Second generation diaspora means who are born in a foreign land, who neither have a native land to remember nor traditions to keep them alive. Now, then how do they remember remember the native land, and how do they go back to their traditions, and how do they have the taste of their roots and culture and historical and cultural baggage and all this? That is the question. Now, before getting the answer, or before finding the answer, we have to refer to one idea that we will borrow from Maurice Holbrook. Now, Holbrook believes that preservation of memories is responsible for the perpetuation of a sense of identity. Now, what is this? Now, the preservation of memories is responsible. We preserve our memories. Now, this preservation of memories, it is responsible to perpetuate the sense of identity. Now, our identity is perpetuated, it is formed, it is developed, it is perpetuated by the preservation of memories. And how do we preserve our memories? It is in the society that people normally acquire, recall, recognize, and localize their memories. Now, though the thing is like this, that our identity is not something which is individually constructed. It is something which is constructed within the very social context. Now, at the same time, this identity is formed, developed, and perpetuated through the preservation of memories. Which memories? Memories that we normally acquire, recall, recognize, and localize within the very social context or within the group where we live. So, memory, identity formation, and the social context or the social group or society where we stay are all connected. They are interconnected. So the social context actually helps to develop, localize, recognize memories, and memories help to perpetuate our sense of identity. So it is discernible that it is impossible for an individual to remember in any coherent and persistent fashion outside their group context. So outside your group context, you are unable to remember any coherent memory, or and you cannot remember any persistent and coherent memory outside your group context. So group or the society where you are posited, that is very important to localize, recognize, and coherently remember a memory. Here, apart from Maurice Holbrook, we can also refer to Nietzsche, because Nietzsche, in On the Genealogy of Morals, analyzes the social conditions that generate memory. Now, we have already said that the social context helps to recognize, localize, acquire, and recall memories, and memories help to form the identity, and memories help to perpetuate the identity. Now we have to find out how the social context is responsible, or how social contexts help to to localize, recognize, and acquire and form memories. Now, in here we have to refer to Nietzsche, because Nietzsche on the genealogy of morals analyzes the social conditions that generate memories. How social conditions generate memories, that is, that Nietzsche has said. And Nietzsche says that memory is not an individual attribute. Memory is not an individual attribute or an isolated capacity. Okay, now what is that? It is memory is, it is a social construction. So Nietzsche says that memory is a social construction. It is not just an individual attribute or an isolated capacity, but a social construction. Memory is produced out of social pressures. So your social pressure, your group interest, your commitment to group interest, all this help to form the memory. Now, memory is produced or formed out of social pressures, whereas forgetting is something very spontaneous and impulsive an act. Okay. Now, Nietzsche believed that forgetting is a positive power that relaxes our consciousness and allows the new to enter. So Nietzsche says that forgetting is something very impulsive. Forgetting is something very positive that relaxes our consciousness and allows the new to enter. Now, the need of living in a group and getting its protection. So why do we live in a group or within a social group or in a society? Because we need certain social protections, coverage, because we the need of living in a group and getting its protection made man inhibit his capacity of forgetting. Why? Because man has to live in a society, and society always demands a sort of memory. So man has to remember something, and he has to, or she has to, inhibit his capacity of forgetting, and developing memory is done at the same time. So because we need the protection of the group where we are posited, we have to remember certain things, and we have to inhibit the capacity of forgetting in order, and that all this actually makes us committed to the society, with which actually makes us committed to our collective interest. You are in the society, you are in a group, you are in a particular social context, so you need to remember certain things because of the interest, because of the collective interest. And this commitment to collective interest gives the sense of belonging. So we have the sense of belonging, we have the sense of belonging because of our commitment to collective interest. And this collective interest actually is this commitment to collective interest actually helps us to memorize something and inhibits our capacity of forgetting. Now here we can say that because we live in a social context, because we live in a particular social society or in a particular group which demands certain memories, because which demands and which actually pressurizes us to memorize certain thing, to remember certain thing, with the same thing, as well as group membership provides the material for memory and prod the individual into recalling particular events and into forgetting others. So it helps us to remember particular things and it helps us to forget the others. Groups can even produce memory in individuals of events. This group interest also helps us to produce memories in individuals of events that they never experienced in any direct sense. So this is how the second generation diaspora or the immigrants' children come to know of their tradition, come to know of their native culture, come to know of their native land. Okay, now uh, uh, we will just go to the story itself. Now, after a basic and a very general introduction on how memory and forgetting works and how it is connected to the memories and the forgetting and the search for the roots and the crisis of the first and the second generation diaspora. We need to go to the discussion of the short story. Now, this short story, Unaccustomed Earth, the title has been taken from the epigraph as well as the essay that serves as the preface to Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. And the name of the essay is Custom House. Now now I will read out the epigraph here. It says, human nature will not flourish any more than a potato if it be planted and replanted for too long a series of generations in the same worn out soil. So he says that human life or human nature will become just like a vegetable if it is planted and replanted on the same soil. So for mutations of the human nature, for mutations of the human soul, it requires to be planted to a new soil. And then he says, my children have had other birthplaces. So suppose this, we can take this as a something, as a comment or an observation of a first generation diaspora character. My children have had other birthplaces, and so far as their fortunes may be within my control, so far as their fortunes may be within my control, so far as I can control their fortune, shall strike their roots into unaccustomed earth, the earth which is new, the earth with which the nature is not used to. So with this epigraph from the Customs House of which serves as the preface to Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. Now, Jhumpa Lahiri starts his first story, The Unaccustomed Earth. Now, regarding the Customs House, we can say that it is the Custom House which serves as the epigraph to Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. It is a sort of looking back into the American history and how American history is formed, and it is about in the search, not only the search for the American history as something very individual or something very which is disconnected and something very alone from the very bulk of history, but it is something which is the American history which is connected to the general history of the world, the general cultural history. So America, so you need to find out history as something individual, as something unique within the context of something which is there, within the context of the general history, within the context of the history of the world. Now, this is how, so for that, now you need to find out the unaccustomed art, the art which is new. Now, in a new art, in a new land, the nature actually mutates itself and it becomes something new from what it were in its original or native soil. Now, just go to the story and the storyline of Unaccustomed Art. Now, the short story is based on the intergenerational crisis and tells the story of a widower. Okay, visiting his daughter in Seattle. Now, Ruma, the daughter has stopped working to look after our family and home, but her father wonders if that really is a right decision on the part of Ruma. So from the very beginning, we will find that the father is coming to the daughter and her family but both the characters have certain questions and certain not only just questions, but there is a crisis in their relationship. So there is a certain disturbance in their relationship. The father has a different expectation from the daughter, and the daughter wants to enter into the and the daughter has certain confusing tensions about her father coming to visit her family. The story underscores the confusing tensions that exist in the gender roles in the immigration communities. That is true. The story has characters who are immigrants with little differences. There are first generation and second generation immigrants that we will find that Ruma's father is a first generation immigrant and Ruma is a second generation immigrant. Naturally, the story offers different perspectives to look at both the host and the native country. So we will find that Ruma's father has a different perspective to see America, and he has also a first-hand experience of the native land. And again, we will find Ruma, who has never seen her native land. Maybe she has taken a short trip, short vacation. She has enjoyed a short vacation with her parents, but she doesn't have the first-hand experience of the native land and how Ruma looks at America also. Now, when Ruma's father comes to visit them, Ruma was initially afraid that her father will want to move in with them. Now, this is something that is quite common in the Indian family or the Indian family structure, that when a father or a mother becomes alone or weak or very old, they they move in their daughter or their son's family. But Ruma, we will find, is having a sort of crisis, and he's disturbed. He's having a sort of tension that what will happen if my father moves in here. After her mother's death, her father has started traveling, and he's having world tours. And this particular trip to Seattle to visit Ruma's family is just an in between. It's just between two world tours. Anyway, Ruma has to face this issue alone. Why? Because her husband is away on a business trip, and had he been present, he would not have been able to share the same feeling, because the crisis that Ruma is facing is typically an Indian thing, because and in the Indian family structure only we find that the mother and the father, when they become infirm, or then when they become old, or they are alone, they become alone, they start living with their son and daughter. So this is something very much Indian, and Adam would not have been able to understand that, which she has now. So this particular tension which Ruma is having, this tension is something which is a result of her inherited feeling, or which she has acquired as a memory from her root culture. Despite a second generation immigrant position, she is having a crisis. She is having this crisis because she is a second generation immigrant who has that experience of the first-hand American life, and who wants to live very freely, who wants to have the taste of freedom, who has seen the American lifestyle, and at the same time, who has the connection to the tradition and the Indian familial structure. So this crisis is very much typical of a second generation immigrant. However, his father has got used to living alone. We will find that his father, he wants to live alone, and he will do anything but move into Ruma's family. Moreover, recently he has started dating Mrs. Bakchi. This news Ruma will get at the very end of the story. And now, who is Mrs. Bakchi? A Bengali widow whom Ruma's father has met while traveling. So when Ruma, after overcoming her initial hesitation, requests him to move in with them, his father refuses. Now, during his stay, Ruma's father, now he puts in a garden for his grandson Akash. Now, Ruma is pregnant, and she is going to have as the second issue, but her first issue, Akash, is there, and we will find that Akash is having a sort of very sweet bonding with his grandfather, because his grandfather, now Akash is a third generation immigrant, and through his grandfather very directly, he is acquiring the memories of his native uh, culture and native land. He is actually inheriting had the traditions from uh, his grandfather, maybe through Ruma, but his grandfather has been able to make a very good bonding with Akash through this garden. Now, Ruma's father put in a garden for his grandson Akash. He wanted Akash to get to get acquainted to the soil, the roots. Now, just see, Akash means the sky, and garden is the soil. Now, Ruma's father is trying to connect the sky, the Akash, to the soil, or he is trying to connect the desire with the very realities, or he is trying to connect the very tradition with the new experiences. Now Akash is getting accustomed to, or Akash is getting acquainted to the roots, to the garden. Now before leaving, now the story ends with Ruma's father leaving Seattle and Ruma's family. Before leaving, he composed a postcard which he was about to post to Mrs. Bakchi, and he composed the letter in Bengali, and he forgets to post the letter. And Akash ends up taking the postcard to Ruma. Now, Ruma, though she cannot read Bengali, surmises its significance, and she affixes a stamp and sends it off to its destination. So this is how the story ends, and this is where I'm going to end my class, and I'll discuss the things later. So till then, thank you.